We have been testing the weather balloon project, or Herbie, since about 2012, and we always like to go out to the Midwest to do so. It's just a lot easier to do things out there, especially the recovery process. And so after weeks and weeks of insanity related to the pandemic and other social issues that were coming into play, we decided as a crew, let's just get out to the Great Plains, not only test the weather balloon, but maybe even use the severe weather that might happen as a backdrop to do some testing of the live camera systems as well.
All right, so we're in May, and I gotta get off this rock. Mark calls me up and says, hey, let's go launch the balloon, maybe catch some severe weather. I said, I'm in. I think I could do this. And it looked like it was opening up a little bit, you know. You were able to travel, you gotta get the test, but I think I could manage it.
2020 would be the first year that I finally get to work with my longtime friend, Mike Farrow, who I had known since 1999. He was in the radio business for a long, long time.
After 50 plus years of doing radio, daggone pandemic came around, ended all of that. Advertising went into the toilet, so there was not a whole lot of money to pay all of the employees. I was one of the latest ones to be hired, so I was done. But the upside, the good side to all of that was I had a lot of free time on my hands, and I'd known Mark for a long time, and so he graciously offered me the opportunity to join his team. I jumped at the chance.
The original plan was for Mike and I to leave Wilmington, North Carolina at the end of May and go towards Oklahoma, somewhere in the Great Plains, looking for some severe weather to try to do these tests, with severe weather being the backdrop. And on the way, we'd pick up Brent from the Atlanta airport, and the three of us would head out and do what we needed to do. Well, as it turns out, we ended up in Texas because the severe weather was rather limited out there, so we made our way down to the Waco area.
What's the story?
So we're gonna put the camera right there, and that's our shot right there, man. Looking south, the supercells are gonna cut across diagonally from right to left. Got it set up. This will record whatever happens south of it for a good 28 hours, 1080p.
So I've known Mark for a long time, and like for the past 3 or so years, he'd been telling me about this virtual fence idea of his cameras and weather instruments. So taking what he had done with hurricanes, he thought he could take that idea of the virtual fence and apply it to severe weather.
So my plan was to set up a small network of these unmanned camera systems ahead of this severe weather potential in the area roughly near Hillsboro, Texas, down towards Austin, and then we would stay in Waco as our base camp of operations. And so on the way down there, we would simply set these cameras up along our route.
Again, we find ourselves on the dark road with Mark Suddeth at 12:30 at night.
Looking shady.
Looking shady.
I was very excited about it. I thought this is really going to be neat to capture any severe weather that forms the next day coming across this fence that we had set up. And we were testing out these new Kestrels, kind of these little tear-shaped drop sensors, as they are called, that would give us sensible weather, the temperature, humidity, dew point, and pressure, something that we'd be using a lot during the upcoming hurricane season. So everything was all set up and ready to go, and now it was just basically up to Mother Nature the next day. The severe weather started just about noontime, and it moved right into our virtual fence with hail and heavy rain and gusty winds. It was really exciting. So we left the hotel, got out in it, and this gave Brent a chance to put up the drone and see what it looked like from above.
I'm out in the parking lot, just setting up the truck, organizing. Mark comes running out. Brent, get the drone up, get the drone up. The supercell's right there. And it was that easy. 5 seconds later, I'm 250 feet up, and that was pretty cool.
So far, I was very encouraged by the results of this virtual network of cameras and weather sensors that we had set up, again, just north of Waco, down to the Austin area, and these severe storms moved right into that during this enhanced risk day from the Storm Prediction Center. It worked really, really well. These cameras that I had been using for years to capture impacts from tropical storms and hurricanes and even some winter storms, it was already starting to work in severe weather, and being that this was the first time out, I was very happy with the results. So the next play for this is going to be south. All the heating is still going on south between here and Austin.
There's no heating going on here. So we're in Waco, and there's ice falling from the sky. It's freezing. I'm an island boy. I got my white t-shirt on. And Mark says, we got to go south where it's warm. I said, that's a good idea.
We left the Waco area and made our way south along Interstate 35, headed towards San Antonio, where the heating of the day was still very strong. Temperatures were in the low 90s. There was still a lot of energy in the atmosphere. And there were more storms building now coming in from the west, kind of sagging south, southeast towards San Antonio. And I thought, hey, let's get on down there, try to intercept these storms. There was a very low risk of even maybe seeing a tornado or two. And so we let Mike drive, and off we went for some good old-fashioned storm chasing.
So yeah, when we're reading reports about hurricanes, it's in the Gulf coming towards Louisiana. It's not going to go much further. I mean, you got a couple hundred miles, but it's still coming into Louisiana. You look at the SPC, we've got 10,000 square miles, and it says a 1 or 2 brief tornadoes. Try to find that needle in the haystack.
We caught up with this next batch of storms and got off the interstate into some country road area, and the structure was just amazing. You could definitely see a hail core, kind of had that green iridescent look to it, and of course I wanted to get in there and see that hail up close and personal.
And even though we knew we were in an enhanced risk area, didn't quite catch us by surprise, but to still see it manifest itself like that was just phenomenal.
Then all of a sudden, things got interesting really fast.
There we go. Oh yeah. Tornado warning, that's the one.
I mean, I think that was the only tornado warning for that day, and we were on it. Like, if there was going to be a tornado, that's where it was going to be.
Oh, here comes the view, Brent. There it is.
These massive, very intense thunderstorms that you kind of only see in the movies or on television, we were in it.
Like, would it still get under us?
Hailstorm, Mike.
At least we got reflectors. Oh, Lord. God. Okay, I see reflectors. This is
Tell me if you're uncomfortable.
Have you ever seen the movie The Fog? The way the fog comes in and just covers everything? That's what was happening. I'd never driven in anything like this before.
It was actually getting to be quite dangerous, honestly, because visibility literally dropped to near zero at times, with Mike at the helm there driving this truck.
Oh, guys, stop. It's all over the road. It's like snow. Stop.
The ground was just covered with, yeah, it looked like snow, like it just snowed. Like, it was covered. It wasn't a couple hail dots here and there. It was layered. This was like 2 inches deep hail.
As all this is happening, Mark says, "This is cool."
Stop. Just stop. Hey. I'm not stopping out here. Well, just pull over to the right then. Pull over.
Now, Mark may have 500,000 miles of severe weather, hurricane driving under his belt, but I probably had about 10 miles.
Well, just pull over to the right then. Pull over, pull over.
Hey, dude, I'm gonna run off the road.
Right there, stop just a second. Right there.
The front seat got a little heated. Mike and Mark exchanged words about driving.
Look, I'll help you. I'll help you pull off. Go on. Okay, stop. Look at that. You gotta see that.
Covered in hail. Look. And the ground fog. Wow.
I mean, there's lightning crawling across the sky. I want to stop and take more pictures, but we got Mike and Mark. We're all exhausted, tired.
How much lightning there is, and it's just all around. One fires 200 miles away, you see it.
It had been one heck of a day. We had accomplished everything that I wanted and more. I think we were all pretty exhausted after chasing all the way down to San Antonio and beyond. So now it's time to grab some dinner, get back to Waco, get a good night's sleep, and prepare to launch the Herbie payload the next day.
Is that yellow box? Nice. And then watch, yeah, I'll zoom up, pan up. There's the ship.
There it is.
The perfect straight line. Easy.
Well, the GoPros are working fine inside the hotel room. Now they have to work fine to 102,000 feet or higher. So Mike, that's what we're going to look for. We're going to look for this to squawk. This thing should talk to it every minute, I believe, is what we have it set to.
Well, I'd heard from Mark over the years, many years, about this balloon project, Herbie, that he had. So yeah, we got out there, and the first time we did it, it was like, wow, this is like a real weather experiment that I'm actually a part of.
We had enough helium and a couple of balloons so that we could do 2 launches while we were out there. I figured we'd take advantage of the situation. So the first launch site was in a town just north of Waco called West Texas, about 15-20 minutes up the road from Waco on I-35. I found a nice open field on Google Earth, and so we drove up the road a piece and went out there and decided to give it a shot. Yeah, so these are the balloons, fresh out of the nursery. There they are. These are 1,500 gram weather balloons, and these will inflate from a company down in Florida called Kmont, and Melbourne, Florida, of all places. And this thing will be about 7 feet across when we launch it, and about 30 feet across when it bursts at 100,000 plus feet. When we arrive for a launch in a hurricane, Herbie pretty much has to be ready to go. The APRS has to be on, the spot locator's on, and the GoPros, you turn them on. I mean, you're not going to forget to turn them on. That's like, but you know, if you want to turn them on, you need all the battery power you can get. Here we go, kids.
Electrical deck. Check.
Check.
Scalpel.
I concur.
How many wraps you want?
2.
That's it?
Yep. Slow.
Make sure that's sticky side of it. Boy, did I hit the blue?
Now, there's no doubt in my mind that this thing's gone. They're both recording. Herbie, 2020 launch near West Texas. What time is it, do you think? Doesn't matter. We appreciate everybody's support, and this is for you, Mr. Carey. We miss you, buddy. I think we got it. 3, 2, 1. I have to admit my heart races every time we're getting ready to let that payload go. And this goes all the way back to the very first test launch back in 2012 with Carrie and Greg and our friend David that was there, to all of the tests ever since. I just get nervous for some reason that something is going to go wrong and the end result will just be a big disaster. 1, please work. What we do is we track it using APRS, which is Automatic Packet Reporting System, amateur radio. And it's doing really well. We got people watching it from all over the country because that beacon hits APRS repeaters that are connected to the internet. And then it goes out to the APRS website, and anybody can actually track it anywhere in the world if they want to. One of the most exciting aspects of this entire high-altitude balloon project is that when it reaches burst altitude, the point in the atmosphere where the pressure is so low that the balloon eventually pops, and this is totally expected, and it begins its descent back to Earth. But when that happens, so does our job of tracking it down and then eventually going out and recovering the payload. Well, we know when it hits 500 millibars, it's at roughly 18,000 feet.
Now, we knew where it was on a map, but I'm thinking this is 3,000 feet away or whatever. How are they going to know exactly where it is? And Brent said, well, I got my drone with me. We'll just fly the drone. So that's what he did. He flew his drone up, tracked it down with the coordinates, and was basically flying over top of it. And that's kind of how Mark and Brent knew specifically exactly where it was.
We're gonna do 100 and... Once again, the drone worked perfectly. We had the map, we had the spot locator, we had the APRS, we had the coordinates. I just plugged those into my drone, and I was able to fly right out to it. Laying on the ground, perfect, straight up.
That's unbelievable.
I think when I fly, it's like a bird's shot, you know, point A to point B. Well, you can't walk from point A to point B all the time, so still unsure how we're gonna get this thing.
And at some point it was like, maybe I can just stay here at the truck and keep the truck safe, and Mark and Brent can go get it.
We're almost following in the same direction as the sun.
Yeah, really.
So we got west and east.
Right. It's in that direction.
We're heading straight east.
What we got over there?
Cow. Milk cow. We got a
Well, they can charge you.
We got a Spanish bull. And to our right, they're on us now.
Oh boy.
They clocked us. Yeah, it's every 2 minutes, right?
Yeah, it's every
740.
every 2 minutes. Well, you have to understand that the payload has this little APRS transmitter on board, and it's sending its exact location out about every 2 minutes, and we're picking it up on our handheld radio as we're walking across all that open rangeland. And it's just nice, very comforting to hear that beacon, to know that you are in fact getting closer to picking it up.
Yeah, so we're right in this area.
Yeah, it's squawking to us now.
We're getting close.
Maybe through there and then to the right.
That's what I'm saying.
We were making great progress. The transmitter from the payload was talking to our radio regularly, and we were closing that distance, fairly quickly. But it was getting close to dark, and we kind of had to hurry things up. So Brent had brought his drone with him and a little backpack, and he figured, hey, it might make it easy to just put it up if we're only about 1/10 of a mile away. Maybe we'll see it, and that's exactly what happened.
I got we're right in line with it. On my Google Maps, what's yours?
Same. It's got to be around here.
Like right over there or something.
Probably. So that was pretty easy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Much better than last year.
Yeah.
So far.
They don't have 10-foot bushes in Texas.
They do, just not here. Even though this was a fairly easy and routine recovery retrieval, it's still interesting, and it always is. We always learn things, especially in this case, the use of Brent's drone to help shorten the process. That was fantastic. And we got to see some interesting things as well.
We got the remains of
Something bad happened
something
here.
bad happened here a long time ago.
No kidding.
Definitely not human.
And we're thankful for that.
This kind of looks like Predator.
Man, pieces of animals scattered everywhere.
I think this is all one animal. No, that's a head too.
Jeez. Some over there. That's great.
Mark watches too much Forensic Files. And something could happen to everybody. The worst thing that could happen, it could happen tonight. You got balance?
I do. And I have a stick. That was good.
Mike's unlocking the gate.
Yeah, I just noticed there's no lock on this. Yeah, this was like the grandest of high school science projects, real world. This thing had just gone up 17 miles in the atmosphere, landed back on Earth, and Mark and Brent were able to retrieve it out there in this field.
The second launch site was about 125 miles southeast of Dallas in a small town called Corsicana. I had picked out a nice municipal park in the late afternoon hours to launch the payload from. Now, I had goofed up and forgotten one of the battery packs that powers one of 2 GoPro cameras. So the payload this time around was going to be a few ounces lighter, but it was still good to get the practice in of launching the payload, recovering the payload, and giving Brent and Mike an opportunity to see how the whole process worked. 6:20 p.m. There's Mike and Brent from Corsicana, Texas.
Yeah, finding a launch spot is not always easy either. You know, we're driving around circles like, where's going to be the best spot? We got the telephone wires. We got dogs barking. You know, where are we going to do this?
Every once in a while, we will launch in an area where people can come out and see what we're doing, which is not a problem. It's not like what we're doing is some kind of secret military operation. And, you know, people are curious. They want to see what's going on. And I would venture to guess that most people have never seen a weather balloon launch ever, much less anything nearly as big as what we're doing here with Herbie. It's so peaceful up there. Wide open spaces, far above the world and its man-made problems. I can watch that video for hours, and then I imagine how it would be high above the eye of the greatest storm on Earth. And I think to myself, one day, it's gonna happen. And then that moment of peace and tranquility comes to an abrupt end as the balloon bursts and sends that payload tumbling back down into reality.
Now with that launch, it was a little bit later in the day, and Brent was certain, he was almost certain that he knew exactly where it was going to come down. And it was, all of us were kind of really amped to be able to watch it come down.
We're here. So we should be looking over here, right? I'm guessing.
And I can remember driving down the road, looking out the windshield, looking out the side windows, up at the sky, thinking and Brent's going, that's exactly where it's going to be, right over there, right over there. So we kept looking there. We never did see it, but we were all kind of really hoping we would. I thought the odds of that were a little bit thin, but you know, I got caught up in the excitement too.
This launch made it to about 103,000 feet, and we thought that we were well ahead of it while we were tracking it on the ground, thus potentially giving us the opportunity to actually see it when it landed. But the problem was we noticed that it was actually falling a lot faster. The descent rate was a lot faster than we had anticipated, which means that it would land several miles farther to the north than where we were set up to try to intercept it.
I put the drone up, and I mean, I flew like 2 miles, probably 2 miles from where I was looking for that thing. I kept seeing this orange thing, and it happened to be like some cow feeding station or some float in the cow thing, or there was something that kept catching my eye, and I was like, that's it.
All right, trying to pick it up on the radio, walking along the road here out in the Texas countryside. Gorgeous. Beautiful area. I mean, look at that. Yeah, it was definitely nice out there. What a beautiful evening. You know, we hadn't found it with the drone, and so that was a little disconcerting. But I figured, let's get the handheld radio out and do as Carrie had taught me over the years, and that is let the APRS transmitter that is on the payload talk to that handheld radio. So we walked around, held that radio up as high as we could, and sure enough, it picked up the signal. And as soon as it does that, it gives you the latitude and longitude, a distance and a bearing of how far away it is, and now it's just a matter of going out and picking it up.
It got dark, and we were getting ready to hike, and we said, all right, let's get ready. Mike, you want to come with us? And Mike, no, I can watch the car. Now I feel safe. Got my stick. But you see how it kind of curved though?
Right.
Like, it would be kind of curving around this thing.
I couldn't see anything. Brent is out there all fearless, not worried about any animals or anything like that. None of the noises that we're hearing there in the night.
I translated in my mind as that's a couple dogs out there. Mark translated it, it's a pack of wolves. A pack of hungry wolves. I'm on the scent. I can smell the payload.
Nothing. That was it.
The payload emits a signal back to this handheld radio that Mark has, so you know you're within 5,000 feet. You can easily walk to that. But what is out there, again, in this West Texas prairie after dark?
People in the chat are saying that we should be within sight of it now.
Do they realize it's dark time?
But they also know that we've got lights. Alright, we are 0.02 miles. Real close to it, dude.
We're there. We got it.
That's it talking to us right there, folks.
All
Yeah,
right.
so we should be coming up right on
All right,
it.
yeah, we got the dot. We're going for it.
Hey, here's a parachute.
You got it.
I see a parachute.
That's it. Woo!
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Man.
No problem. Look at the payload right next to
Oh,
the
wow.
chute.
And it's upside down.
That's why.
That's why Spot didn't do.
Spot's working, I bet. You flip it around, Spot's gonna ping.
Right.
And it's soaking wet.
Yeah, really.
Whew! Another easy recovery.
Yeah, okay. It wasn't too bad. Now we got to get it out of here. Considering that this was another nighttime recovery out in the middle of some Texas wildland, I think we got really lucky finding that payload. We were still perfect. I have never left one behind. We've never not come back with the payload. It was a great adventure, a great learning opportunity for Brent and Mike.
So we're wrapping up. I gotta get a COVID test now. I gotta get back to the Virgin Islands. I need my test. Then all of a sudden, Mark starts getting tweets, texts. There's social unrest in Dallas. There's riots in Houston. There's fires in North Carolina. I don't know what's going on.
We had made a conscious decision to not turn the radio on, at the hotel not watch TV, to insulate ourselves from what was going on.
And it wasn't until we were dropping Brent off at the airport there in Dallas-Fort Worth that we had realized that there are curfews in effect for a lot of the urban areas of the country now. I mean, it was like, what in the heck is going on? You know, 2020 was the year of waiting for something bad to happen each and every day. And then on top of all of that, Mike and I get back to North Carolina. It's now June 1st, and already we're up to our third named storm.